In a world where hopium and common sense collide, starring the CryptoKeeper and BlockchainCrusader. Welcome to Debate Crypto. Good afternoon. Welcome to Debate Crypto. We've got a little special live broadcast this afternoon. Miguel, what is on the podium today?
Unrealized capital gains taxes, baby.
Our fearless leader, Janet Yellen. You guys, I'm going to get fired up on this one. This one really grinds my gears, as it said. We're going to jump on into it. Guys, if you are in the live chat, make sure you X out of the live chat, smash up the like for us. That definitely helps. Comment, share, do all the things.
Yep.
And if you're over on TikTok, make sure that you come over. We are at Debate Crypto. That is live on TikTok. So we would appreciate the support there. So Miguel, kick it off. Tell me about, or just give me the overview of what's going on here.
Yeah.
So before we get started.
So we all know, right? Anybody that's in the investing game, you know that when you sell your assets, you get hit with capital gains tax. And depending how long you've been holding it, you can either get long-term or short-term capital gains. And that's fine, right? We can't escape taxes forever. There are always going to be taxes to be paid. But now they are proposing an unrealized capital gains tax. And for anybody that doesn't know what unrealized means, is you're holding your asset, you haven't sold it, but it's gained value. Mm-hmm. And now they're telling you, well, now you got to start paying us taxes on that stuff right there that is increasing in value, even though you're not selling it yet. So where does that leave all these crypto hodlers that have been holding for multiple years, right? We have gigantic price swings up and down. So what happens if you hold your Bitcoin, let's say, to 100,000, you don't sell, it comes back down to 20, and they say, well, Bitcoin hit 100,000 last year and you didn't sell. So according to the unrealized capital gains tax, you owe taxes on 100K.
Yeah. It's, I mean, literally. So, and in fairness, in the article, they package it a little bit differently. So I think there's two ways that this could go. They package it as if it's going to only go to the wealthiest couple hundred families in the United States. Okay. But here's my first thing. I just did a video on TikTok about this. The fact is, the wealthy elites are who control this country. And the moment those wealthy elites start feeling some sort of a pressure like they've never felt before, right? Because they live on their investments. So now you're saying, hey, remember all that financial freedom that you felt before? Well, we're going to put a little squeeze on it, right? The moment that they feel that pressure, I've got news for you. They're going to start pushing back. And they have the funds and the ability to push back. So the first part of this is, they are not going to be happy if this were to go through, and you don't want the financial elites to be unhappy. Let's be real. They are who ultimately runs this country and overall really probably rules the world. So that's the first thing, right? So if they're unhappy, everyone's unhappy. And if they are unhappy, guess who's going to be unhappy next? The lowly middle class or lower class. I think ultimately they're going to say, hey, if we are going to be paying on unrealized gains, then you are too. Because let's look at this. If you know that you're getting taxed on unrealized gains, that means it forces you to sell within basically what they're saying is that you'd have to be forced to sell within a year's time frame, right? Because if you didn't sell and the price wobbles back and forth and up and down and everywhere else, what are they planning on taxing? Are they planning on taxing the highest point? What if it wicks up to some wild number, right? And then drops back down? Are they taxing that unrealized gain? Where does it end? And it's going to get passed down. I hate everything about this. I personally don't think that this is going to go through, but I have another theory that I'm going to share in just a little bit about one reason why it possibly could. Miguel, give me some more of your thoughts on this.
Yeah, dude. So what I think about this is something that we need to take into consideration is politicians that are offering this up are also rich themselves. And we know politicians have the power to increase their own salary, right? And they vote on it. They never vote on decreasing their salary, right?
That's
to avoid taxes. So they're always voting to increase their own income. Now they're proposing unrealized capital gains. All these politicians invest in the stock market. They invest all around the world. They have tons on
just ask Nancy Pelosi. She's really good.
Exactly right. One of the world's greatest traders in the recent past. So what's going on here? Why would they do this to themselves? It's not because they're so charitable that they're so willing to give away so much money to the
Right.
government, because they're not. They're the
Yeah.
first ones to know how to wrap up their money, hide it, throw it offshore, and never speak about it again. So
Yep.
this automatically, that's a big red flag right there. That this coming for the rich, right? That saying that everybody hears, "Eat the rich." They're
Yep.
not, because they're part of the rich. No politician out there
Yep.
is going to harm themselves financially. Look at what's her face, AOC, right? Eat the rich, when she wore her dress to the gala, right, about taxing the rich.
Yeah.
She sold a bunch of T-shirts and a bunch of merchandise that made her rich. That not rich, but made her a bunch of money for that
Yeah.
event.
Yeah.
It cost her over, I don't know how many, like $35,000 or $50,000 just to show up to the event. Therefore, meaning she's already one of them. Because
Yeah.
if she wasn't, she wouldn't be able to go there in the first place.
Yeah.
None of these people are actually going to tax themselves more. It is just being in the guise of eat the rich. We're so socially woke. We're all for you poor people, right? They're gonna pay more taxes, and you guys are gonna get more free money. That's the whole dilemma here. That's
Yep.
not gonna happen. That's
No.
gonna be thrown down onto our shoulders one way or another, and it's just creating another barrier of us trying. If we try to get to that rich class, boom, unrealized gains right there. It's another barrier to cross. Like I
Yeah.
was telling you earlier, right? If anybody has seen the movie In Time by Justin Timberlake, right? Big social construct of time being currency, and there's a big separation between the wealthy and the poor. When he was able to get enough time to become wealthy and transfer over to that section of the wealthy class, he
Yeah.
had to literally go through physical barriers, paying high amounts of currency to eventually, which were all basically taxes, to get there. If he didn't have enough, he wouldn't have made it. So
Yeah.
you have to have, it makes it way harder. You have to make way more money than ever to actually become a millionaire or a billionaire, because the taxes themselves will destroy you and not allow you to get there.
Yeah. I actually was That's a really good point. That's a great movie, by the way, a really interesting idea, surrounding that movie. But I was actually talking about earlier kind of a little bit of another kind of spin on this. So, what if ultimately this does get passed, but only for the reason to hold down the middle class? So here's the thing. TikTok, YouTube, all of this social media, right? All of a sudden, myself and many other people have information like something simple that we never knew before, like, oh, taking loans against your assets. Like all of this stuff is now mainstream. It is all a part of everyday life if you are in the investing world whatsoever. And when I say investing world, I'm basically saying, do you watch investing TikTok stuff? Do you watch TikTok, crypto, whatever the case may be? There's all sorts of information that's out there now that basically says, hey, this is, as you called it, the social construct of the wealthy, and the wealthy are able to do X, Y, and Z, and this is how they do it. Now we have that information. The elite see that we have this information. They say, wait a minute. If we impose something that can hold them to where they are, and we can still listen, because if they do this, trust and believe their beautiful accountants are going to have another way for them to, well, that's fine. I mean, they can tax your unrealized gains, but we're going to put it into a trust and we're going to do X, Y, and Z. Listen, they're going to have a way around it, right? But the cream that rises to the top is still them. It's not us making that next step forward. And I think that what would happen is it would start there as, hey, we're taxing the rich, we're taxing the rich, we're taxing the rich. Well, then the rich find their other nice little way to avoid this, in whatever the way that they do that. And then they say, you know what? We've been doing this for a set and however long to the wealthy, and it's time to kind of even out the playing field. It's time to pass this down so that everyone, we need to be fair. I mean, everybody needs to be. No, get the heck out of here. Package it however you want. This is a ruse. I don't think it's going to happen, but if it does happen, be careful, because it means that A, they already have a way around it, and B, the big part is it will be passed to you. I promise. It is not going to stay with the wealthy. The wealthy are never at a disadvantage. You know it.
100%, dude. It will definitely be passed down, right? Whether it's by depending on your tax bracket, you get hit with a certain percentage of unrealized capital gains on your taxes, yada yada. But it's gonna get passed down one way or another. There is absolutely no way that the rich will take this tax on alone. And let's not even blame the rich, right? Because nobody wants to pay taxes. So it's
Right.
not like, oh,
That's a good point.
the evil rich don't want to pay their fair share. Nobody wants to pay taxes. No one's like, yeah, it's tax day. I can't wait for them to rip my money right out of my paycheck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So I 100% believe that what's really happening here is they're trying to find taxation as a solution to funding the government,
Yeah.
to paying for more spending. Right, the government can't control their spending, and they're saying, well, we're just going to have to keep stealing your money because
Yeah.
we can't handle our own
We
money.
can't balance our own budget, so we'll just take it out of
Yeah,
your
so
pocket.
you guys better start budgeting better because we're going to keep taking more money from you guys. So learn how to eat. Food prices going up. Better learn how to eat less rice and less beans and less meat, and start eating fake meat over here because it's going to be cheaper and healthier for you. But we're just going to keep ripping, more dollars from you, and that's where it's really coming from. People are being programmed to think that taxation is a proper way of funding certain aspects of the government, and it is to an extent, but taxation is not meant to. The whole American Revolution was based off a tea tax.
Yeah.
They literally, the tea tax. They were like, we're not gonna get taxed on our tea. Screw this thing, and they threw a whole revolution and created this
Oh.
country. And now we're talking about more and more taxes every year, and getting more ridiculous.
Yep.
And everybody just says, yeah, that's a great solution. Yeah, more taxes. That's definitely what we need. How about we stop spending? How
Yeah,
about we
no
stop
doubt.
spending? How about we start learning to manage our own money better?
How
But
about we
we
stop
can't.
how about we stop giving other countries wild amounts of money that we are actively printing for things that do not matter, for things that are
Yes.
against our political agenda, for things that are just absolutely like in the spirit of being, as we call it, woke. Get the heck
Yeah.
out of here. Let's look at taxes for a second. So as it relates to taxes, okay, there's a point at which yes, taxes do make sense. They fund our roads. You can package it a bunch of different ways.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let's look at this. When you make money and you get paid, let's say you work for Amazon. We're talking about one of the big dogs, right? You work for Amazon and you get paid, and out of your paycheck you get taxed. Okay, so boom, if you're making $20 an hour and they take 20% or whatever, you're making $16 an hour. Okay, so they're taking that. Now, I'm like, you know what? I want to take my wife out for dinner tonight. And so I take my wife out for dinner with that $16 an hour. Now, mind you, I've been already taxed on that, right? I go out to dinner, and on my way to dinner, I'm like, oh, shoot, I need to grab some gas. So I stop at the gas pump, right? I get killed at the gas pump if the Biden administration's in there, but hey, here we are. But besides that, you get taxed on every gallon of gas. Okay, now we're getting taxed again on money that's already been taxed. Now let's go one step further. Now we get to the restaurant and we pay for our food and we eat and we have a great time. And then I look at the bill and I'm like, okay, a tip. Yeah, definitely we do that. Okay, cool. Well, what's this? Oh, I'm getting taxed again. Wait a minute. Just on the way from picking up my paycheck to going to get gas to get dinner, I've been taxed 3 times. And there is a fundamental problem with the way that we handle taxes. And then to take it one step further, as you graduate, my dad actually taught me this. I got a paycheck one time that was a pretty large paycheck. And I remember my dad having such a positive outlook on things. And he said, I was complaining about it. I was like, are you kidding me? I made $14,000 or whatever it was, and my check $7,600. And I was like, what the heck is this? And my dad said, congratulations. And I said, excuse me? And he was like, you've graduated to the highest tax bracket. That means you're getting somewhere. And the thought of that made me want to vomit. It's like, how sad is it that it is a good thing, to be able to graduate to the highest tax bracket. Get the heck out of here. These wealthy elites have a way to get around all of this stuff. I don't believe this will happen. And if it ever does come to fruition, again, there will just be another little sidestep that can be taken that they'll try to keep off of TikTok and keep off of YouTube so that we can't figure it out.
100%, right. People need to start thinking and asking questions instead of just taking in what they're being told. In your stars, when will enough be enough? When will there be enough taxes to fund the government, to keep things afloat? how many more taxes are we going to have to take on? Because we're not seeing wages going up. And if we
Nope.
do see wages going up, that's just going to increase more taxation and other stuff, because then you artificially increase wages, and then things get more expensive because that cost comes down to the consumer eventually.
Yep.
If an employer needs to pay for the same labor more, then they're going to make their product more expensive. And then when you go to that store to buy that product, oh man, it's up like 20% this year. Why? Well, because people are getting paid more money now, because
Yep.
they're artificially inflating wage prices to stay woke.
Yeah.
And it all goes back to more taxes and more
Yeah.
taxes, because
No
people
doubt.
can't survive with what they're getting paid plus all the taxes they're paying already.
Yeah.
So it's an endless vicious cycle that keeps happening and happening. Taxes and more taxes are not the answer to any of the financial problems in this country. We need to have a different outlook about spending, about saving, about investing, and not say, well, we'll just create another tax. We'll just create another tax for this. Because at the end of the day, none of these politicians are going to be paying all these taxes. If they were, they'd be broke. And there's no politician out there riding around in a $15 cab or taking an Uber
Right.
because they can't afford the transportation, and they can't afford this or that. They're all just as wealthy, right? They're not Jeff Bezos wealthy, but they came from nothing. They made the laws. They increased their own salaries, and they come up with their own taxes that never apply to them or to anybody in that class. It's just more and more barriers to the average American, and people need to realize this.
It is being the banker in the Monopoly game and getting to control every single other part of the game, right? You get to control everything. Think about if Miguel, if you were my boss and you had a money printer, right? And you could just make the money printer, as we say, go burr, right? And just continue to print. And then I hand the money to you and say, here, spend it on this, and this. But oh yeah, you got to pay your taxes. And you're like, oh, okay, thank you very much. And then you take the money in your hands and you're like, well, I really don't want to give that tax money. And I know a guy, right? I got this guy that's going to tell me how to do X, Y, and Z. The thing is that as we continue to print all this money, which is ultimately what this all comes down to, this all trickles down from all of the money we've been printing. It gets passed along and passed along and passed along. In my construction business, right, we were getting absolutely murdered on lumber. Where do you think that price went? That price went to the consumer. When I would step up to a job site and start quoting a job, and they're like, whoa, what is this? I'm like, well, I mean, you might want to ask the current administration why lumber is up 500%, because it literally was up that high. That's starting to ease off right now. But what would end up happening is, because now that's higher, now people are spending more, right? They're actually they're wanting to spend less, so they're trying to do less jobs, which then hurts, our industry. And then I've got people that work for me that say, hey, look, a gallon of gas, my vehicle takes premium. A gallon of gas is $4 a gallon right now. Side note, it is. I just filled up at $3.93 earlier today. And they're saying, how can I continue to live at this wage? You have to raise those wages. I raise those wages, and then I look at the customer and I say, hey, listen, everything's getting more expensive, and that's going to get passed on to you. It is a vicious cycle, and I don't know where it's going to
Nothing is free. All this free money that was printed, we're seeing people not getting jobs now. Why? Because they got so much free money. They have so many other different benefits to not have to work. We've been incentivized not to work and just depend on the government. And now the government says, well, we've given you a lot of money. Now it's time for us to take some of it back. And it's coming through this unrealized gains tax, right? It's just another tax added on. Nothing is free. They will one way or another take it back from you, and you're going to end up in a worse position than where you started off initially. And that is what's happening. Right? We're seeing it with gas. We're seeing it with food prices going up and supply chains coming down. The supply chains can't keep up with all the spending, right? Because they're blaming it on the supply chain itself, but maybe it's just the increase of spending that people continuously keep doing to make themselves feel better. And the supply chains literally aren't built for this amount of spending. So it's a problem. It's a huge problem.
It's a huge problem, and I just don't know where it ends. I mean, at the end of the day, I literally don't know what else to say except for we need to pray for our country.
What's going to... Go ahead.
I was
No,
just
I
going
was
to
gonna
say
say like
we
what's
just
gonna
have
happen.
an absolute massive problem in our country, and it's not just the spending; it's how we're spending money. It's the fact
Yes.
that we are being pit against each other. You've got, if you don't believe like me, well then I hate you, and I'm going to tell you
Yes.
why. And oh, I don't like what you have to say, so I'm going to call somebody and complain about it. I'm going to cancel you. We live in this culture where if you don't like what someone else says, just shut them off, just cancel them. There's just so much we need to be praying for our country about. It's sad. It really is.
Yeah, dude. What's gonna happen to all these crypto investors that are long-term hodlers? Like,
Yeah,
what's gonna happen?
crushed.
What's literally going to happen? Hodling
Yep,
will disappear. So
yep,
we're gonna make the market even more volatile.
yep.
People are not going to understand their like crypto taxes are already complicated enough.
Yeah,
Now you're throwing into the mix if it were to pass unrealized. So I didn't even sell anything, but now
right.
I gotta start worrying about how this unrealized stuff affects me. You can't just
Yeah,
sit back and say, well, I'm just hodling for the next 5 to 10 years. I'm good. I don't got to worry about it until I sell.
yeah.
Now you got to worry about this whole other dilemma.
Let's take this
Uh,
one step further. The elites ultimately manipulate these markets, right?
yeah,
So let's say you did have to sell because you were going to get taxed on these unrealized gains. Well, who is actually making the market move when there's huge candlesticks? It's not like just randomly like, oh, me, Miguel, and a bunch of people happen to jump on and get into this project today. Unless it's a super low cap alt, not happening. That's not what's going on. There are manipulations happening in the market. That happens all the time. This is an unregulated market as it is right now. So the conversations that are not insider trading. So as these happen, the people that would be supposedly getting quote unquote taxed on this, when that gets passed down to us, guess what? They can control. Oh, let's push it up here. Okay, well, we got our unrealized gains tax, so we better sell right here and dump it back onto the lowly investor. So they would be able to control it anyway. I ultimately don't think that it would hurt them in the long run as much as they're saying that it would, because they have the ability to move these markets around. We are guessing, we are analyzing, we are looking at charts and saying, hey, with this, and this combined, well, I think it's a good time to buy, or I think it's a good time to sell. They're saying, hey, my boy told me yesterday that it's time to make this pump, make this run up, and then we got to sell because we've got capital gains, unrealized capital gains taxes to pay, and we don't want to take that chance, so we're going to sell. And they control that. At the end of the day, it's a sham. I don't think it's
yeah.
gonna. I don't think it's
And
gonna work.
it's another way of keeping people away from assets because now people are starting to wake up to investing more of their own money,
Yep.
right? They did it with the stimulus checks that they got. People were investing into crypto, investing into here, and now the fact that you have to be selling every end of the year because of unrealized capital gains tax, you might not be able to get that position back again. You might not be able to keep the portfolio you want. So what are you doing? You're literally having to relinquish your assets because you're being forced by a tax.
Yep.
Therefore, you go back to having no assets. What that just makes it more
Own
difficult for
nothing
an
and be
average.
happy.
Yes, exactly right. Own nothing and be happy. It makes it more difficult for an average American to build up a portfolio of assets, a
Yep.
portfolio of wealth, and you're gonna end up with nothing. And they're
Yep.
always gonna manipulate you out of your position so that they keep their stuff, you lose your stuff, and you can never build your way out of the hole that you're in.
Yeah, in the TikTok chat, Crypto Weatherman just jumped in and said there's going to be a lot of boating accidents this year. And what he's referring to, if you're space, is a lot of us hold on hardware wallet. So a hardware wallet is essentially a jump drive or a thumb drive, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
that ultimately holds our private keys. Okay. And so if someone were to come to me right now and say, listen, we're going to tax you on all of your unrealized gains here. Oh, you know what?
I
The
lost it.
darndest thing happened. I literally lost my hardware wallet and the keys to it. I can't even I don't know what I'm going to do. And so that's what he's referring to. He's obviously being smart or whatever, but what it is going to do, and what I'm getting at there, is it is going to push people towards the notion that being dishonest and doing the wrong thing and pushing money offshore is the answer. If we are listen, if they're going to push this through in the States, where do you think people are going to go? they're going to go elsewhere. They're going to
Yeah.
hold wallets offshore. They're going to do offshore banking. They're going to say, to heck with the United States. It is no longer the place to be. It is not the land of the free, home of the brave. Nah, it's the land of the own nothing and be happy. And
Yep.
I'm not with it.
Yeah, 100%, dude. 100%.
So Crypto Fam, if you're in the live chat, if you could do us a favor, just X out of the live chat, hit the like button. We appreciate that. I mean, shoot, you can hit the dislike button. It helps us just as much. Just let people know we're watching. Thank you guys for all of your support. Is there anything in the chat we need to get to before we jump off here, Miguel?
No, but Samson here said a good comment, says, almost think we need to keep our money out of the banks. 100%. 100% right. That's what's happening with crypto. That's the whole revolution about crypto, is getting away from the banks, reclaiming power of our money, having no middleman telling us what we can and cannot do, right, with our money. Therefore, that's another reason why I am not a fan of XRP with the banks, right? XRP is a Trojan horse.
XRP. Good job,
yes,
Miguel.
It's a Trojan horse for crypto to get into, empower banks, bring it up to speed with the crypto world, to screw us a little bit longer and a little bit harder.
Oh gosh, that's just yeah.
Ditch the banks.
Well, on that note,
time for Plan B.
That's right. Miguel is the Bitcoin maxi in the room. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for supporting us as always. We hope you guys have a blessed evening. If nobody's told you before today, we love you. And until next time, hodl like it's hot.